ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ। पार्थाय प्रतिबोधिताम् भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथिताम् पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीम् भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वाम् अनुसन्दधामि। भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनम् देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्। My namaskars to you all. We are deliberating on verses from Srimad Bhagavad Gita. This is chapter number 7, and we had seen verses until verse number 23rd in our last class. The name of this adhyaya is Jnana Vijnana Yoga. Now we have seen some verses here when Bhagavan is speaking about kinds of devotees, kinds of people who worship and who do not worship him. What different kinds of devotees are there who worship him? Among them, the Jnani, he is very dear to him. And not only that, he says that Jnani is like his own Atma, his own self, and who has got this special knowledge, Vijnana, Jnana Vijnana, Vishesha Jnana, which is Vasudeva Sarvam Iti, that Ishvara has become everything. Now the person whose knowledge, whose experience is thus, who lives in this state of experience, like Vasudeva Sarvam Iti, it is not belief, it is not conclusion, it is not knowledge of the books, of the scriptures, it is the experience of living. And how is that? Vasudeva Sarvam Iti, that all, everything, this Vasudeva himself has become. So that kind of devotee is very, very rare indeed. Sudurlabha, he had said that. So this context came when he corrected his flow of thought corrected, he cautioned Arjuna that not to be mistaken. So when he says he has become everything, but remember, so natvaham teshu te mai. Here he cautioned that do not think I am in them. That Atman, this consciousness, being not the content of the material, but very emphatically, very clearly he says that material itself exists in the consciousness, not other way around. So this is a tremendous statement. And he says that it is very difficult to comprehend this, the world which is made up of the different states of these three gunas, and it is deluding all. So the people who are deluded, they cannot know me, who is Param, the highest, the supreme, and Avyayam, indivisible, meaning infinite. So he is supreme and infinite. So he says this is due to his Maya, and those who surrenders that supreme consciousness, supreme indivisible consciousness, that is Ishvara, God, so they only can cross over this Maya, this delusion of Maya. And the people who are taken resort to demonic tendencies, they will not worship, and there are the other who worship. Among them, the one who has realized that everything this Vasudeva himself has become, that devotee is indeed very, very rare, rarest among them all. Now he says that why the other people do not worship. Then he says that desires, kama istastair hutadhyana prapadyantanya devataha. So robbed by propelled by those desires, kamaihi. So hutadhyana, jnana is knowledge, the discrimination, that is robbed. So they lack that, they do not have that. These desires have taken away that discrimination, that knowledge. So that's why they are worshipping different deities. Now different deities, so meaning those deities would be fulfilling those material desires, such kind of entities. They are neither supreme, neither they are that indivisible consciousness. They are, so when Krishna is referring to that aham param avyayam, so he always referring himself as the principle, the ultimate principle, because person cannot be like that. So personal aspect is of the Krishna, Vasudeva Krishna, and he is identifying to that to that principle. That's why he says, I am that param avyayam. Now that is not the case with this anya devata. So they do not have that character. So it is like in the second chapter Bhagavan had said parasparam bhavayantah. So you propitiate them, they make you happy. So like it's quid pro quo, give and take relationship. If you do not give him his share, he is going to be angry. I gave the example of the Indra. So when people of the Gokula decided not to do on the behest of Krishna, not to do that yajna, where offerings would have been made to Indra. So Indra becomes very angry and decides to deluge these people into the rains, into the water. So that is not the characteristic of God. So they are anya devata. And the people who are thus worshipping these devata are like other powers. So they are something superior than the ordinary people. Divyato bhav is there. They have some extraordinary power than the normal folks. So when we take this characteristic and try to understand, try to correlate into our day-to-day experience and living, we understand that these devatas are not necessarily they has to be Indra, Agni, Varuna, etc. They can be all here after whom we run to fulfill our desires. They can be people living around us like there is a boss, and unnecessarily you try to be very humble and very sweet and very flattering before him. It is the same relationship. That person is devata for you because your viveka is robbed by your desire to get promotion or any other favor. So devata can be some clerk, some officer sitting in some office, some any other person with whom you are not honest, trying to propitiate so that your some desires get fulfilled. So not only persons, it can be instance, it can be an instrument, anything you can be making a god of. You can be making God out of any of these things. Your mobile may be God for you. Almost you are making it like that. Some instance, some opportunity might be. Now, the more terrible thought is what Bhagwan says here. He says the people who worships these different kind of deities, these special powers, he says, tam niyamam asthaya prakrutya niyata swaya. So this is their own prakriti, led by that or defined by that prakriti. These people do so. Why they do so? Because it is the nature, it is the sanskaras. So astha and niyam, as you are supposed to act, as you are supposed to behave, that is the meaning of niyama and astha. So the way certain in a certain context, certain here devata or such a person is to be propitiated, so you will propitiate him like that. That is the idea. Niyama and astha. Tam niyamam asthaya prakrutya niyata swaya. Swaya prakrutya niyataha. So niyata, controlled by your own nature. That's why you are doing so. What is your nature? That the desires, they are the characteristic of your nature. So this is the case of that person. But here Bhagavan says that whosoever is worshipping in whatsoever form, to whomsoever, yo yam, whosoever person, yam, to whomsoever deity, in whatsoever form, tanum, a bhakta of such deity, with such shraddhaya, and want to get fulfill his desires, shraddhaya architum ichchati. Bhagavan says that he is in everything. Now he says, tasya achalam shraddham. So I fortify, I reinforce his faith into it. Now this is dangerous thing. If we say that I seek something wrong in my life, and Bhagavan says, I will reinforce you, I will establish you into that wrongdoing. How terrible that idea is. That he is not going to save you. He said, you seek that, okay, I will let you see that, let you aspire that, let you go after that. You can have that. no problem. Yo yo yam yam tanum bhakta shraddhayarchitum ichchati. Tasya tasya chalam shraddham tameva vidadhamyaham. That I do, tam, to such people. Whatsoever form any devotee seeks to worship with Shraddha, that Shraddha of his do I make unwavering. I establish him in that path. And what happens? So with that Shraddha, with that faith, he engages himself into worshipping of that deity, of that Devata. And as a result of that, he gets his desire, Kaman. He gets his desire fulfilled. But that too, it is by the blessings of that divine. Mayaiva vihitanitan. So, from me only, even that deity is becoming powerful. The power of deity is also borrowed from me only. So, when that deity ultimately fulfills the desires of his or her devotee, it is by my blessings only. So, by my power only. So, so this is what happens. Our day to day in experience. So when we are in difficulty, so immediately our faith is lost and we run after some kind of problem to resolve that problem, to resolve that issue. But Bhagavan is saying, so the person whosoever is lending you any favor, giving you bestowing any favor upon you, is through my power only. Through my power only that person is powerful. The idea is, why don't you seek the God himself or seek before him only? Why do you run after other people, other deities? And that's what Bhagavan says in the next verse, that these people of the low or meager intelligence, alpa medhasam, they are mandabuddhi, alpa buddhi, these people are. That the fruit of these efforts of this all this aradhana and shraddha is going to be short-lived, antavattu. It does not create further avenues for him. Now that asset becomes liability. To speak in the language of the commerce, that asset becomes the liability. Okay. So, and what does he say? Then he says, Devan Devayajo Yanti. The people who are worshipping these kinds of secondary powers, they reach to them, they go to them. Whether you suffer or enjoy, you are condemned to their captivity. So, like there are so wise people always they advise like that. Even for some benefit, you should not make friend with evil people. That evil person, he might be, you can say that he is good to me, he might be bad for other person, but he is good to me. Okay. And he does not look me in that way. He does not deal with me in that way. So good people, wise people, they will advise not to tread that path. That because when it will turn, now these favors you are getting from him, and when he will ask, you will be compelled to give you will have no freedom to walk past him. If you accept his friendship, you will have to cooperate, you will have to surrender, you will have to work along with him. You cannot escape it. Devan Devayajo Yanti. You admire and take shelter of such powers, such powerful people, or whatsoever of this material world, they are going to have consequences which you will not be able to escape. And Bhagavan says, Mad Bhakta Yanti Mamapi. So my devotees, they might initially suffer or feel discomfort or distress, but ultimately they will reach me only. So this is a great lesson in these few verses. The philosophy of living itself, Bhagwan has expressed. So this God dependence, God surrender. So asking if you need anything in this material world, asking God, the last time in the last class there was this discussion, what is the difference between Devata and Ishvara. So as I said, your attitude, that defines. Even so to say a Devata or Ishvara, you can turn it into Devata if your outlook, if your attitude is material. So Bhagavan says that all these four kinds of devotees, they are all are devotees, in which one is Artharthi also, who is seeking, worshipping to God, who is coming to Him, is propitiating Him for the sake of some material benefit. So there there is the possibility that you can seek some material favor from God. So what is the difference between asking to a Devata and asking to Ishvara? So where is the difference? Difference lies between his understanding of, so when he says God, then or Ishvara, immediately these characteristics that aham param avyayam, they must come. That he is no ordinary person, he is no ordinary being, he is the supreme one. What is the implication of this idea? This idea being that is the ultimate truth. Now translate it. Come out from the folklore, or what you say, uh, 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 in the form of telling in this name and forms. Point is that when you understand that you are propitiating, you are worshipping a principle, that means that is the ultimate truth. Everything else is now misnomer. Everything else is ephemeral. Everything else is illusion. Everything else now is transient. So now, but it is just only matter of your understanding, belief, but it is not matter of your realization. And your suffering on this physical or this material, all this worldly level is real, which you are experiencing. Now, taking every fact or placing every fact into its right place, now the prayer is correct. Now the prayer does not have loopholes. Now he says that do, O Lord, as you please. And when the person or devotee surrenders in such a way, he believes completely and he does not have any qualms, any conditions, any sense of, entitlement. That, oh God, I used to offer you every Friday 2 bananas, you are supposed to help me. A devotee might very well be able to say, but question is of the attitude. Whether, like a grandmother says to her grandson, that I will give you candy. Will you do this much work for me? It's all right. Whether those conditions ensue from your love or your foolishness, that is the question. Why prayer do not succeed? Because it has loopholes. Neither we understand what we are doing, neither we understand to whom what we are praying. We do not understand anything. And somehow we are not even convinced of our prayer, whether it is being listened, whether it is how it is supposed to work. We never give a thought how I am praying, going to a temple, and before one image, I say, oh God, you do this, you do that. You understand that you are limited. You understand that your intelligence is not the best of the kind. The one who is the supreme Lord of everything. Now he knows the best. Then why don't you become calm and quiet? It is not necessarily God will listen to your prayer and do exactly as you are bidding. He is not your servant. Do you have such a faith? Are you open to accept as the situation unfold, howsoever it may be? Will your love, your faith, and again, this is allegories always. So we say Krishna or Durga or Shivji or Rama, whatsoever form. At one side we are saying form, but all the time Krishna is again and again referring himself as the Aham Param Avyayam. He is very clear. So we have to also be equally clear. That when I say Rama, Krishna, yes, Rama who is Param and Avyayam. That Rama. Shuddha Brahma Paratpara Ram. On Ekadashi day, there is this Ramnam Sankirtan sung before Arati, 1 hour before. So this is how it starts. Shuddha Brahma Paratpara Ram. I am worshipping that Ram, which is nothing other than the Shuddha Parabrahma. To that I call Ram. He is not merely the son of Dasharatha and Kaushalya. He is not. He is not just that Ram. I am worshipping that Ram who is the Shuddha Brahma, Paratpara, the supreme principle, supreme Godhead, Ishvara. I am worshipping, and that is the form of Rama, in which I am worshipping that Ishvara. Now, so this is the idea of prayer, this is the idea of living. What is the moot point? Your moot point is the ultimate aim of human life is the transcendence. Transcendence from this material captivity, becoming free of these all limitations, realizing your infinite, ever pure nature, coming out of this dream, coming out of this delusion, and knowing that principle as it is. That moksha, that mukti, that jnana, that is the ultimate goal, and everything else, this world, our duties, our obligations, and whatsoever this context may bring, it is just for the time being. It is not everything. This is the idea, must be rooted, and it should be the fundamental basis of our prayer. Yes, I have not realized, oh God, so I am suffering. So I am not able to take your name. So do that, take care of me, or do something, or as you please, so that I may be relieved from the suffering. But if you wish that I should suffer, so let it be. Do you have that stomach? Do you have that heart? Do you have that courage? And this person who has such implicit faith, now the prayer works. Unless you leave that clinging to your interests, your prayer are not going to work. Unless you surrender your self-interest, your interest will not be taken care of. That is the condition. So unless you become unselfish, your self-interest will not be taken care of. It cannot work that way. Various different nice examples Sri Ramakrishna has given. That he gives the example of Draupadi, that now this where from Sri Ramakrishna had gathered these kinds of because he had heard many these expositions of these Purana Itihasas, though he himself might not have read a lot. And he grew up in village and in that rural Bengal. So accordingly, so he used to produce some kinds of examples and stories to explain his point. So what important here is the point. So this you must focus on. So here he is taking example from the Ityasa of the Draupadi Vastra Harana, where he explains what is surrender, prayer, and the grace of God or the help of God is like. He says, as long as Draupadi was trying to protect herself, there was no help. And when she let it go, then only God, the help of the God came. So very distressful or very difficult situation. So when we are in a problem, our ego is evoked and we are with shield and sword out into the battlefield to do something. So the prayer or the surrender, it is not of the kind which teaches you akarmanyata, like not doing your part, not doing anything. Prayer and surrender does not ever teach. Gita, Bhagwan is imploring Arjuna to go and fight where he is not, he is reluctant to. So there is a kartavya, one you must do. So prayer is not something, prayer is not for the indolent. That you do not do your part and you are praying to God that you do something. Sri Ramakrishna, we see that he do not used to like this kind of attitude and used to get very angry. One fellow was there who was married, had children, and this fellow was staying in Dakshineshwar and in the name of doing some spiritual austerities, spiritual sadhana. And Sri Ramakrishna is whenever he is to reminded of him, here Sri Ramakrishna is the person off and on, he is going into samadhi. He is losing his complete body consciousness into the recollection of the God. And when he is in normal senses, and if this topic happen to come up, he is to condemn him. That is, this fellow, he is married, he has family, he has children, and he is doing sadhana. If you are married, you have your children, and what do you want? Means your neighbor should take care of your family, your children. So he do not used to like that. And not only that, that fellow, he had some material desires, that he was thinking that if I pray to God, probably God will give him wealth. He said nothing is going to happen. If you pray, nothing is going to come. So that was not that attitude. Never Sri Ramakrishna entertained. Never. So that rather we must mother Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda, through their life, through their teachings, through by their own example, they always put before us that you work. स्वामी जी तो बोलते हैं काम करते करते मर जाओ. He says so. Why? What is the important? Why work? At one side, you see that this world is ephemeral. Nothing has absolute value here. This is the delusion. Here, at one place, he says that this world is like the crooked tail of a dog. This is never going to be straightened. Then why do you work? Why you are work till death? Now that is the right attitude. When you understand the absolute worthlessness of the thing and then you try to do good, that is the right attitude of the Karma Yogi. When this, you will have the correct understanding of this highest truth, when you will see the opposing ideas are merging in it. So So idea of the work, it is not because it is permanent. It is just because that is the best, that is the greatest thing to do. Indolence, laziness, slothfulness, indulgence into, so that is the lower kind of living. This is the higher kind of living, sacrificing, making it into a yajna, giving everything to the world, to the others. It is the constant pursuit of the higher ambitions, higher living and higher experience. And for that is the way. And this Karma Yoga, Swami Vivekanandaji, Sri Ramakrishna and Mother Sarada Devi, they taught and showed. Mother always said, so never sit idle without any work. We also try to do that, and we also advise and teach the same thing. So, this is how the idea of karma, idea of the philosophy of living itself, the idea of prayer. So, we discuss these different points. So, prayer to God, even for the material welfare, how it should be. Bhagavan has promised that yoga kshemam vahamyaham. I will take care of your yoga and kshema. Do you have no faith in me? So the person who is living with such realization, that what does he mean by God? How does he see himself? How does he see the world? Now if that attitude is correctly formed, the prayer ensuing will be correct. Now it will always, whatsoever may be the difficulty in the world, that prayer will always be an instrument to become more intense, more close, and more towards this oneness with God. It is always an instrument for the spiritual intensified experience. It is never actually for the material welfare. That is the true nature of the prayer. So this is prayer. This is Bhagavan explains here these ideas. And we take forward, we go to the next verse, the verse number 24. And he says, Avyaktam vyaktim apannam manyante mam abuddhayah. Again he uses that word, that brainless fellow, abuddha. So they who does not have any brains, abuddhayah. And param bhavam ajananto mama avyayam anuttamam. Again he uses the same words. Again and again he's saying that do not forget who am I. And who am I? That avyaktam, I am the unmanifested, I am not the manifested one. I am the principle. And you consider me as a vyakti, I am the principle, you consider me as the person. That is your mistake. So he says, avyaktam vyaktim apannam manyante mam abuddhaya. Mam, avyaktam. These abuddhi people, the people without having any brains, they consider me as the person. Vyaktim, they consider me as the person. That is the brainlessness. This is what Bhagavan says. Very clearly, there is no confusion anybody should have about that. When Krishna himself is saying that if you consider me person, that is the means you have lost your brains. I am not the person. I am the principle. And again he says that param bhavam ajananto, that supreme state, param bhavam ajananto, of means of what? Avyayam, then again indivisible, meaning infinite. Anuttamam, that is supreme. Nothing can be compared to it. The highest. I am that. Do not be mistaken me as a person. That son of Devaki and Vasudeva. I am not that. Do not be mistaken. I am that great God. I am the Ishvara. So see me that always. So do not forget this, and then you are worshipping the Ishvara. If you remember this, that that the God you are worshipping, He is that. Meaning that what is the always implication is, if you are aware of His nature, meaning that you must be aware of your nature, nature of the world itself. What is ultimate truth? Whether it is in your surface consciousness or not, that is the question. And then what? Whether you are praying to Ishvara or Devata is distinguished. Whether it is in your surface consciousness, this nature, when we say the nature of God, as soon as we say that, it immediately follows that what is my nature, what is the nature of the world. Always when he says indivisible, that means everything is that God alone. I exist in that, this world exists in that only. There is no differentiation. So, align to the truth, align to this truth, and there the prayer ensues. So it is always a spiritual exercise. It is never a cry for material help. It is never. And that is the prayer. It is your always longing, crawling towards that spiritual experience. Always. It is always a spiritual. Material is just an excuse. So that is the prayer. And when that person, that his attachment to that material interest is left behind, given up, now that works. Now that we see that how it brings the changes. It is the experience of all people. Whosoever has dared to practice this. They say, seek and it will be delivered unto you. Here the formula is you give up and it will be delivered unto you. That is the secret of prayer. So, this is what Bhagavan says, that again he emphasizes his true nature, that what the true Godhood is. I am not like the every other person you see. The true God is this. So, Maharaji makes here one comment, and I will read that. The ignorant take me as an ordinary mortal, assuming embodiment from the unmanifested state. Like all other men, being impelled by the force of past karma, like every other people, like us, we are born due to the force of our prarabdha karma. Those fruits were to be enjoyed and suffered. That's why we were born to certain kind of parents, in certain place, in certain situation, and life has been more or less influenced by our past baggage of our karma. So our sense of freedom is but very illusory, and it is very, very thin. Our scope of freedom is almost everything is influenced or predetermined as it were. We have very little margin to make choices. Our choices are influenced already by what we are. So, but that is not the case with Ishwara Avatar. That's what he says. This is due to their ignorance of my real nature. Hence they do not worship me, the one without a second. Ekam Advitiyam. One without a second means Ekam Advitiyam. He says, Bhagavan says, now continues to in the next verse. Very beautiful verses these are. We can read and contemplate upon these ideas. So, like there are some recipes, where you have to cook something, to get that extract of probably that herb or something. So if it is not of that temperature, if it is not done after for that duration, if it is not that sufficient stirring, etc., etc., there might be very well conditions. So so it is somewhat like here that we have to work these ideas. Till then they do not give out their extract and reaches our heart and enriches us ourselves, that it nourishes us. Till then we will have to chew this cud. Till then we have to work with these ideas until they gives rise to that extract which becomes the part of our being. As long as so I was about to say, as long as they remain in your head, so condition is much worse. As long as they are in the books itself, they are not in our head. So from books they should travel first to our head, and then from your head to your heart. And there is a further path. What I say, that from your heart it should drop down to your guts. Meaning that it now is no more deliberate. It has become the part of your being. And they have become your nature. That's what we say guts, which are instincts, which are not deliberate, which are not the part of your surface consciousness. So, from your head, from the information, that it should transform into emotion, and from emotion, when it becomes a transformative force, you work it out, you try to live by them, and you try to absorb. It is no joke that it is not just belief, it is not just explaining, it is not very well how much you have understood. It is not that. So it is like that, boiling those herbs or something like that. You work these ideas till it gives rise to its extract, and it nourishes you. It becomes the part of your being. Bhagavan says further, he says, Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavrutah mudhoyam nabhijanati loko mam ajam avyayam. Again and again he says that I am not explicit. Prakasha. Prakasha means manifest. I am not manifested. I am not evident everywhere. And I am covered with Yoga Maya Samavruta. This my Yoga Maya. Yoga Maya in the sense that this is something of the divine nature. This Maya is of God. He is the owner of it, and he is covered into it. Yoga Maya Samavritaha. So the Moodha, the person, the fool, he doesn't understand this. Moodha ayam na abhijanati. A fool cannot understand this. In this world, that I am such lokaha, in this world, I am ajam avyayam. Lokam means where people are born, and he says in this world I am ajam avyayam. He says I am never born, and I am indivisible, I am infinite. This is Maya, this illusion is created of this Yoga Shakti of Bhagavan, Yoga Maya. This is his special power. It is not given to all. Individual do not have it. This Yoga Maya belongs to this Ishvara and his Ishvara's Maya. It is referred as Yoga Maya. So that's why he says that I am not manifested everywhere. I am covered by this Yoga Maya. Like for most of the people, Krishna is the son of Devaki or son of Yashoda. If Yashoda would think him of God, she would not be able to serve him. So she always thinks him as her son. Yoga Maya Samavrita. This is his Yoga Maya. She always sees him like his son. She cannot see him like God. She cannot see him like God. Like other his playmates of the Vrindavan, they cannot see him like God. This is he what revealing to Arjuna. That Naham Prakasha Sarvasya, not only everywhere to everyone or not every time also. Krishna, this Arjuna might be able to see on that Kurukshetra that he is God indeed, but not all the time. Rest they are fighting the war. In the beginning of this chapter, Arjuna is, not this chapter, in the Bhagavad Gita, in the second chapter, he is apologizing to Krishna that because of my ignorance, so I might have used the word affectionately referred to you as singular. So please pardon me, do not mind that. Arjuna is not even aware how deep is his ignorance. Krishna is revealing it. So this is Naham Prakasha Sarvasya Yoga Maya Samavritaha Mudhoyam Nabhijanati Mudhoyam Nabhijanati Loko Mama Jamavyayam Loko Mam Ajam Avyayam. The Yoga Maya spread over the Lord, which fails the understanding of others in recognizing him, does not obscure his own knowledge as it is his. He is the wielder of it. Just as the glamour, the Maya caused by the juggler, Mayavi, does not obstruct his own knowledge, this illusion which binds others cannot dim his vision. He is always aware of it. So, difficulty is on our part. We tend to lose that vision, we tend to lose that understanding and discrimination. So, this is the 25th verse. And in the next verse, Bhagavan says, Vedaham samati tani vartamanani charjuna bhavishyani cha bhutani mam tu vedana kaschana. So, simple statement, he says that this, the nature of this Yoga Maya, or then again who he is, he makes it again clear. That Veda aham, that I know everything, samati tani, everything in plurals. And vartamanani, samati atitani means I know the past, vartamanani, the present, and the future also, bhavishyani cha bhutani mam tu vedana kaschana. But but no one knows me ever. So I know everything, the past, present and future, but nobody knows me. Mam tu vedana kaschana. You cannot know me. So, and he continues this idea that why does this happen? What is the obstruction for the jivas, the ordinary being. So that's how he explains. And why does they go to this cycle of birth again and again? He says that Ichha Dvesha Samuthena Dvandva Mohena Bharata Sarvabhutani Sammoham Sarge Yanti Parantapa. By the delusion of the pairs of opposites, meaning here Dvandvas, that like here the one is taken Ichha Dvesha, Raga Dvesha. So they are called as opposites, Dvandvas in this world. So everywhere we see this dichotomic nature of the things. So they are the very characteristics of the world. Dichotomy. One and something opposing others. And this dvandva, many times it is referred to as the world itself. And why so distinguishing from the one where this dandva, this duality does not exist at all. It is of the nature of ekam, advitiyam. There is no second. So he says, by the delusion of the pairs of opposites arising from the desires and aversion, Ichha and Dvesha. They are the two principal forces, Raga and Dvesha, desire and abhorrence, aversion, dislike, liking and dislike. So something comfortable and something distressing, something pleasurable and something painful. So everything, all our experiences, they are between this dichotomy. So by the delusion of the pairs of the opposites arising from desires and aversion, O descendant of the Bharata, referring to the Arjuna, all beings fall into the delusions at birth, O scorcher of foes. Meaning this word Parantapa, translated as scorcher of foes. O Parantapa, the one here reminding Arjuna of his legacy, that he is the scion of the Bharata and he is the scorcher of the foes, that he is not any ordinary individual, and this knowledge is being imparted to him that at birth these dvandvas, these opposites, these are of the two nature. One thing, something is running towards and running away, which is something you like, which attracts you and you want, you desire that, Ichha. That is one thing that we can say positive. Something which repels you, you run away from it, you are scared of it. So that is Dvesha, you do not like it. And so like greed, lobha and dvesha, lobha and dvesha. So lobh, something which is attractive, something which you find pleasurable, towards which you will be drawn, you run after it. That is one thing. Opposite to it, you run away from the other thing, which you abhor, which you hate, which you do not like, which makes you uncomfortable. So Ichha and Dvesha, this of desire and this aversion, arising out of this duality of this nature, the moha. So this duality itself is a moha, dandva mohena, through this moha of dandva. Now moha, this word has to be again and again understood very clearly. Most of the time we understand moha in Hindi or other vernacular language, its meaning is very distorted. So we understand moha as something which infatuation, means you like something without any rational thought, captivated by the idea of having it, having the possession of that thing, that we call as moha. But in moha, here in Sanskrit language or especially in the scriptures, this moha is, it has the characteristic, first characteristic is it's a product of this tamas. It's a product of tamas, and you have exactly opposite understanding of the thing. So moha here, it's always about the knowledge, that you have the wrong knowledge of the thing. That is moha. You mistaken something totally opposite thing for the other. That is moha. So that's why delusion, many times this word is used, moha, that you do not have the right knowledge. Absence of right knowledge is moha. It is darkness, it is tamas, because sattva is of the nature of the knowledge. When sattva arises, the knowledge arises. So this moha is born out of tamas. Samshaya is born out of rajas. But moha is born out of tamas. Now he says this tamas of the nature of this dvandva moha, this, when there is only one indistinguishable, there we see the dualities, dandva mohena. So the desires, that's why when this duality is created and something attracts you and something repels you, and these things propels this cycle of the birth after birth. This is what Bhagavan is saying. Sarva bhutani, all beings. This sammoham, that is, means greatly it envelops this delusion to all beings, sarva bhutani, and they go for this sarga, that birth after birth, the cycle of births. This is what Bhagavan says. And now this is how the precarious and helpless situation of the jiva is, and what is the way out. And then he says in the next verse, that we will take in the next class. So next Sunday, which is 26th, there at our Sakwar Sep Center, there would be a function, public celebration, and we would be bit occupied in that. So on 26th, there would not be any class of Bhagavad Gita. So next Sunday onward, we will carry forward this discussion. And the next Sunday onward, means after 26th, the coming class, that will begin at 5:30. So now we are having our class at 5:15. So that class will begin then at 5:30. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.